Are we supposed to follow our king and remain as silent as he is? We need to go to Earth now. We've been hiding here too long. Let's go to our rightful home. If we were on Earth, we would have a glorious planet to live on, thrive on.
You're talking about betraying your brother. You're talking about treason.
You're blind to his intentions. Right or wrong, he's dangerous.
What I'm talking about is freedom. Freedom for all Inhumans. Are you going to use your voice to kill your only brother?
Exactly, yeah. I don't know. Have you also heard about the Titans news for the actor they got for Hawk and Dove?
No, I didn't see the Hawk and Dove stuff. I saw the Robin or Nightwing, whatever news. Whoever's playing Dick Grayson. But
yeah, they got the kid from the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about that.
Exactly. I haven't seen that myself. I don't think I've seen anything that particular actor has been in. And then yeah, Nightwing is a pretty major character, especially since it'll be the first time we'll see like a live action version of that character too.
Oh, nice. I'm actually a really big fan of both of those people, Alan Richardson and
Minka Kelly. Yeah, did you ever watch Almost Human when that was airing on Fox?
Oh yeah, I'm still kind of pissed at that.
I am so sad. That's like one of my favorite shows. I'm so sad that got canceled.
Yeah, and she's always been high on my list of favorite actresses, I guess.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, she was great in Friday Night Lights too, but yeah, mostly like she was in Almost Human, and she had a small cameo in 500 Days of Summer, but that probably wouldn't count.
Yeah. But yeah, he's perfect for Hawk. If you want someone who can play that huge, angry, just really aggressive guy.
I don't really see him as angry though. That's the thing. I want him to be kind of like the nice guy. He was always my choice for Shazam, even though he's still probably he's still probably too old, I guess, to be. I don't know. He's not that old, but it's more like he's not famous enough to headline like a Shazam film.
No, he was he's actually of course he's on Smallville, but he also had a really funny episode on the show New Girl. And then we did get to see him as kind of like a murdery, kind of angry guy on I think it was Catching Fire for the Hunger Games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he wasn't Catching Fire. Yeah, I haven't seen those, the Hunger Game movies in a while, but yeah, now that you reminded me, wasn't Sam Clayton also in one of the Hunger Games as well? He was the guy with the trident.
Yeah, he was actually my favorite character.
Yeah, he was good. I always fan cast him for something within the DCEU, maybe as like John Constantine or one of the other British-ish characters.
Yeah, he'd be good. I was actually thinking about. I was kind of ties into Inhumans, but I was thinking about you and Rion. However you spell.
Yeah, I go like Ewan Rion or something like that. Ewan Rion or something like that.
Yeah. I was just thinking he'd make a really good Robin if they wanted to throw him into the movies. If Inhumans tanks.
If Inhuman tanks, that's kind of the thing that we're gonna talk about. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know if you want to go into discussion of the box office for that particular. Of this week's theatrical release, and I don't know if you've seen any of the. Have you checked the movie times for Inhumans for this week on your theaters?
I haven't. I was just looking at the one day on Friday. That was the day that I went, and it seemed like it had a regular showing.
That's good. Amount. Yeah, because at least for all the theaters that had the Inhumans last week, they're only doing one showing at like 1:00 in the afternoon, starting tomorrow. It's like wow, that didn't take long.
Wow. I mean, well, nobody really wants to. Oh yeah, geez. So it's sitting at what, $1.5 million?
Yeah. You know what? It's not. It doesn't look that bad considering it was only for one weekend, and then like if you compare it to Game of Thrones also had about 1.5 million, but at the same time, it didn't do as well as some of the other IMAX showings they had. Like for example, there was that McGregor Mayweather fight that they showed in a couple of IMAX, and that made more money for one day.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was destined to make just like a bunch of money. The fight was, but I don't know. I've never seen too many people go for the TV screenings. Like Doctor Who, I know they do one like every year, I think. This Game of Thrones, I think Sherlock also had a screening at some point last year.
Oh yeah, there's Sherlock. I think there's also was Doctor Who ever on an IMAX thing? Because I know they did theatrical
I
showings
don't know about
for the
IMAX.
season.
I'm just talking about theaters in general.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I remember. Yeah, I was reading an article that had the Sherlock. The one of their episodes was on the IMAX showing as well.
Yeah, but just I don't see the need for IMAX. I mean, looking at the episode, I didn't see a big difference between what I would watch there and what I would watch on TV. Nothing stuck out as looking really well done or.
Okay, well, let's actually start the episode since we're kind of like into the middle of the discussion, and welcome everybody to episode. I think we're up to episode 9 right now. No, or is it 8? Of the episode 8 of CBM Voice Chat, and my name is Neofant, and I've got my podcasting partner AngryBlueManta here with me, and today we're going to be talking about the new Inhumans IMAX theatrical release. And just a warning, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. We're going to go fully in depth into this particular, like, the first 2 episodes that were shown in theaters, and we'll talk about a lot of what kind of like the future kind of holds for the series overall. So how are you doing?
I'm doing really well today.
Okay, so yeah, let's just get right into it, since we were kind of talking about the theatrical box office numbers. How did you feel about your experience actually going into the Inhumans IMAX release?
It was better than I thought. Of course, we've heard nothing but bad things. I don't think I've seen anything really positive, actually, about the experience besides Anson Mount as Blackpool. Other than that, just heard terrible things.
Well, I don't mean the actual show itself, but I mean like actually sitting down, going to the theater. Did you notice how many or how little people were there with you watching it? What was that like? Did you see any good trailers at least when you were there?
Well, I was actually one of my experience was Justice League was the first trailer that was showed.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I got to see that. I want to say I could count the amount of people in the theater on my hand. I want to say there were about 7 or 8 people.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just like a there wasn't really much going on in the theater. I think a couple of times you'd hear someone chuckle or clap a little bit, but then it would die down very quickly.
Exactly. It was the same with me too. I think there was only about 7 or 8 people in my showing, and this was on the Tuesday matinee when all the prices for tickets went down. So I would figure to be like the busiest time for people to see it, but then even still, there weren't too many people there in the theater, and I got to see the Black Panther, A Wrinkle in Time, and the Geostorm trailer. Those are my 3 for IMAX.
Oh, I haven't seen the Wrinkle in Time one, but
Oh yeah.
I did see the new trailer for Geostorm.
For Geostorm, yeah, it actually looks better than what if you like read into how the film was made than how it originally you would originally thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, because the last trailer that they showed was like really serious, had Gower cover of a song, like a Wonderful World or something, and it was just like very serious. But this looks like they weren't taking themselves too seriously with this trailer. So
Exactly, yeah.
I was more interested in it.
I remember I was watching another movie. I think it was either Lucky Logan or something else in the last couple of weeks, and I actually heard people beside me talking about how much they liked the trailer for Geostorm after it was shown, and I was kind of surprised because it's like a return to that old school disaster movie that Roland Emmerich kind of made famous with 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, like all those like big crazy disaster movies, and it's kind of neat to see those come back.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't seen one for a long time. I think San Andreas was the last one.
Oh yeah, that one too. Okay, I guess kind of like our thing going into Inhumans was that based on kind of like people's impressions and based on the pedigree and who was kind of like the showrunner for the Inhumans, we kind of came in with very low expectations, and I like to say right now that I absolutely share your sentiments. I actually kind of really liked what I saw. Like, it definitely
Yeah.
helped that my expectations were lower, and didn't seem nearly as bad as the kind of like train wreck status that a lot of internet like sites and other things were kind of saying that it was. But yeah, overall, it was actually pretty enjoyable up
Yeah,
to a certain point. Yeah.
I actually saw a review. I didn't look at the review. I haven't read anything. I think I'm actually only listening to one review, and that was from Inhumans TV, John Campia. That was the only review I've ever touched or looked at. But I did see the title of one review was worst thing Marvel put out in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, Marvel hasn't been around doing this for decades. It hasn't even been one.
Yeah, exactly. Not even.
One time before.
No, it's pretty weird because of how I guess like this isn't really a MCU film, but it's released theatrically. It isn't really a Netflix show because it's not on Netflix. It's kind of like a successor series to Agents of Shield, and that's kind of like my impression of going into watching Inhumans is that this is kind of like Agents of Shield ABC TV quality. And from what I saw, it was actually interesting. But yeah, let's kind of like start with the beginning. When you saw it in IMAX, how did you feel about like all those cool shots? Can you describe a few of them to me by any chance?
Well, we did get a lot of. I think it's set in Hawaii. A lot of it, always all the Earth stuff was, I think, in Hawaii, around there, right?
Yeah.
So all of those shots were great. And actually, I actually kept thinking about Lost because that's what they filmed all their stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think it was it didn't look too under budget. I liked the look of Adeline on the internet and everything like that. It was very CGI, obviously.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, it also had like, this kind of look that it wasn't too alien, but it was just enough human so it didn't look too weird. And I actually really liked that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and then I was kind of surprised by how the first scene we see of Medusa and Black Bolt are them together in bed, right? And like her hair is covering up their naked bodies, and it's like, wow, they kind of go in right for the slightly like T rated type of stuff with them together.
I want to say we haven't seen anything that saucy from this side of the Marvel fence. Like Netflix, yeah, that'd be home. That'd be right at home over there. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like that with anything that's close to the movie.
Yeah, but well, I mean, like it makes sense. Like you gotta be able to see them as a kind of like not just as a king and queen, but also as a couple that have kind of like been in love with each other and have been together for all this time, ruling over Adeline. But yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then, yeah, we kind of go from there. We kind of get a little introduction to a lot of the basically the whole royal family with them kind of congregating together to kind of discuss Triton, who we had seen in the beginning of the episode try to rescue a newly formed Inhuman girl before he gets shot down and kind of like jumps off some cliffs.
Oh man, so glad he's dead. I'm so glad he's dead.
Do you think he's dead? It didn't look like he was like obviously dead because yeah. Well, he'll be out of the show for some time
because that's his domain, right?
Yeah.
Is water, and so I was like, oh, well, he'll drop into the water, he'll probably heal or whatever, and we'll see him later on. But what makes me think he's dead is that we didn't see a hint of him later, like not. There wasn't like a trail of blood.
Exactly. Yeah. After that intro, there's like nothing. Like he gets mentioned a lot, but he completely disappears off the rest of these first two episodes. But
yeah, which makes me really happy because he looked terrible.
he did look kind of terrible actually. Yeah, the makeup job was pretty awful, and he kind of looked more like a green alien type thing than an actual kind of like scaly like the fish look that he's supposed to have in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, there was no texture, or there was just one color slapped over his head, and it looked like a cartoon, actually.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah. So then we get So we see like the rest of the royal family. We've got Black Bolt. We've got Medusa. We've got Karnak. How do you feel about how Karnak looked and kind of like acted throughout the release?
I think Ken Leung is perfect as Karnak. I really like the choice. I feel like they could have done a better job with displaying his powers. but it was also a really cool way to see him predict things, predict it, or gather all that information, predict what would happen. But overall, I think he's one of the stronger characters.
Exactly. Yeah, he's definitely he has a different personality from how he is in the comics because he's a lot more serious and a lot more like always talking about how things are kind of like bad in Adeline in the comics. But here in the show, he's a little bit funnier. He's more sarcastic. He has like a couple of like quips. And yeah, I really like the actor as well. I do feel that for people who weren't familiar with his character from the comics, like his showcase of his powers is really confusing because the entire time, like later on in the episode, we kind of like see an action scene where he gets attacked by soldiers, and the whole time like they kind of showed it as like, does he have the same powers that Robert Downey Jr. has in the Sherlock Holmes movies? Because that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, and I mean you can take it that way, but it is confusing because it also looks like he can turn back time, which is. It's actually, I think, it's the former, right? Like, gathers information, and he knows exactly what to do. Like, he can find the weak points of his enemies or whatever.
Exactly. Like, he's able to kind of, like, look at all the things from a holistic angle and basically find the structural flaws or the weakness and be able to kind of, like, visualize it in his own head. Like, that's his main talent. And it's interesting because I don't think they've ever explained it in the... on the show, but he actually never went through the Terrigenesis process in the comics. So this is all like just him kind of like working on it from like a mental angle.
Yeah, and do you think? And yeah, I wish they brought that up, or I hope that they do bring it up later because it would have been interesting to see him and Maximus relate to each other because neither of them, both of them are I guess we've seen at normal.
Yeah, from a moment. So yeah, so we also saw. Gorgon and Crystal, and I felt like they didn't get a chance to do too much overall throughout the show, but how did you like them overall?
I like Gorgon. He's got that same kind of abrasive attitude and doesn't really have a filter. He's just very, I guess, bullheaded. He's very
obtuse with what he says, yeah.
Yeah, so I like him. He's fine. I hate Crystal. I hate her. I think it's one of the worst adaptations of a character.
Probably, yeah. Like I'm not very fond of that particular adaptation of her character because it seems like they kind of changed her from like kind of like a more level-headed, serious type princess from the comics into more of like a teenager Valley Girl type personality. But we'll have to see though, because
it's just she's just a bad actor. She's like I think she's the little sister of Abby Cornish. Who's from Limitless, the movie, and Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
She's just bad. I mean, when she's looking at Lockjaw, for example, you can tell she's not actually looking at. I know it's hard to interact with a CGI character, but she's not even looking at where she should be looking. Like if she was looking at his face, she's like looking over his head.
Exactly. And yeah, we can kind of like bring on move from there to kind of like how Lockjaw kind of looked. How did you like Lockjaw? Because honestly, I thought Lockjaw was really nice or really cool to see as a fully CGI character.
Yeah, that was nice. I hope it looks. I think it'll look better on TV, not on a big screen, because that really brings like the flaws on such a.
Yeah. Well, I was reading a Variety article a couple of days ago, and they were saying that. Because Lockjaw is a fully CGI character, and because the show itself is low budget, we won't be seeing a lot of him throughout the rest of the episodes because he's gonna kind of like be out of consciousness, as we'll talk about later on when we actually kind of explore the story of the Inhumans.
Okay, so I think they used him fine. I liked that he wasn't a joke or anything like that. He wasn't he was just there.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting off a little bit. But were you talking about? You're talking about Lockjaw overall, right? Like he wasn't really treated as a joke. He seemed to be a really powerful character because he was able to bring anybody from the moon back to Earth or to Earth and back again, type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's basically
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll talk about kind of like the last character who I wanted to talk about, because I feel like his story arc is kind of the main crux, or one of the main cruxes of the story, and that is Maximus, played by Ewan Ryan. How did you like his he kind of is a different character from the comics overall as well too, right?
Yeah, he's less psychotic, I think. I think in the comic books, if I remember correctly, I haven't seen him too much in the comic books, but I believe in the comic books he's a lot more eccentric and just like straight up. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
So this is kind of like a thing from the comics, but here in the show, he's kind of portrayed as someone who went through Terrigenesis, but is still a human throughout. However, in the comics, I think early on you found out that he has mind control and like the ability to kind of like read people's minds. That was kind of like his main power, and that's kind of what made him such a powerful manipulator, because he had similar powers to Professor X from the X-Men.
Yeah, and I actually like that departure from the source material. I think it's really cool to have him, someone who's pathetic with the lower caste, and who is kind of an outsider with his own caste.
Exactly, and that kind of like that's one of the things I actually really liked about this current arc, is that his story is all about trying to, well, not only gain power for himself, but he's also trying to stage a coup within Adeline, because he wants to kind of get away from the whole meritocracy thing that Adeline does, where people who have certain powers get to have higher privileges and get to have better status within the kingdom because of how small and isolated they are, while people who don't have like beneficial powers, or they're only seen as like human or whatever, are stuck working down the mines.
Yeah. And that is something like there were some aspects from different comic books and arcs I've read that were in the show, and that was one of the things that I remember reading. I can't remember the name of the arc, but yeah, it went through the whole lower cast, his relation to them.
Yeah, in the comics they're called the Alpha Primitives. They're kind of like people who, after going through Terrigenesis, they kind of end up being actually lesser evolved than humans. So they're just people who are just stuck working in the mines, because essentially they have no like rational thought, or they aren't able to think beyond certain like general like commands and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we kind of see early on that Maximus stages his coup. He gets his soldiers. He kind of like tries to take down the royal family, but Crystal is able to kind of like mobilize with the help of Locha and kind of like bring everyone to Earth before they can get captured or killed by Maximus and his soldiers. And how did you find that part?
I liked it, and I didn't like it because it did involve Crystal being a super teenager, and I just understand why she will essentially from someone like Karnak has that ability that he has. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I did like the whole aspect of. Well, I did like most of the coup.
Yeah, because, well, it kind of comes out of nowhere, and then there's also that big reveal that Maximus was also responsible for the soldiers on Earth who had shot down Triton in the first place. So that, I thought, was a pretty cool twist.
Yeah, I didn't really see that. I thought they Hydra division or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So then, yeah, there's also that big confrontation with Maximus and Medusa, and we kind of learn from their discussion together that they had been, like, partners when they were kids, and that they have some sort of past together.
Yeah, that was another thing that I liked, is their chemistry as well as their implied backstory, because it was a backstory that we didn't get a flashback of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't really seen any of that stuff in the comics either, because there's kind of hints of Maximus telling to both Medusa and Crystal that they both had like kind of like grudges, or they had things against the royal family, but now they're part of the royal family since Medusa married Black Bolt, and Crystal is Medusa's sister.
Yeah, I did not like the whole Medusa confrontation though. I think, did you read my review, my spoiler review?
I did. I saw your review on the Discord chat.
Yeah. So basically, make a long story short, I thought it was due for them to shave her hair off. We haven't really seen her relationship with it, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was way too soon. That's something that I would expect like near the season finale or a couple seasons down the line. We didn't really get to see how powerful she was. So when they had a whole slow motion of him cutting her hair, she's crying and everything. It's just like, well, I don't think the audience really cared.
Yeah, the audience didn't really seem to care because this was like, oh, her hair can like attack people. That's great. And yeah, I don't know. Did you ever read the Inhumans Marvel Knights comic by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee? Because a lot of the story that we're seeing so far is very reminiscent of that particular book.
Yeah, that was one that I read, where they get transferred from, where they transport from Earth to the moon or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the idea was that Maximus cuts off Medusa's hair because obviously she's too dangerous as a threat to kind of like leave without it. But then later on you find out that it was kind of like part of her plan to get closer because she can actually control her hair from the outside, or like she can control her hair even after it's been cut.
Yeah, and it's like on one hand, I didn't like that it happened, but on one hand it is, I guess, kind of good because it wasn't great how they used it, her hair, or how it looked, I don't think, so it's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to deal with that, I guess. I guess they don't have to do any effects for it, so.
Exactly. It feels like it's less of a story issue and more of like we need to save the money on the budget for constantly animating her hair, and that's kind of like the main issue. Because I feel like that if she didn't have her hair cut, she could have still escaped onto Earth, and she could have still had like basically what happened to her in the second episode still kind of work without necessarily having to get rid of the whole hair thing.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Exactly. Okay. That kind of leads to one of my big faux pas. I have like 4 things that kind of really irked me about the show, and one of them is like there's that one scene where Maximus is like making his announcement. Oh, the royal family has gone missing. We, if I figure out what happens, we'll find them, and justice will be done. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like, what did they do wrong?
It's like, well, if you didn't exactly state that they ran away to get away from the responsibility of being a royal family, then you're not really like, you're basically saying, oh, I will find them because of justice. It just seemed like such clunky writing.
Yeah, well, like, I think what he says exactly is the royal family has fled to Earth, and it's like, you don't tell them what they fled from or what happened. For all they know, some enemy came in and they had to run away for safety of the people or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the people would be more concerned about them than be like, oh, they abandoned us.
Exactly. Yeah, so we kind of like that's kind of like the end of the first episode is the royal family, including like Black Bolt, Karnak, Gorgon, Medusa, all kind of like going onto Earth, and then Crystal gets captured with Lockjaw, right? That leads to kind of like my second weird like strike, which is there's that scene I think in like the beginning of the second part of the show where she is chained or like handcuffed and taken to Maximus, and she's like, what have you done? Where's my family? And then I'm just thinking, wait, weren't you the one who sent sent the family away in the first place? I'm like, what the heck? Why would you ask him such a rhetorical question? Yeah.
I didn't catch that because I quickly learned to just tune her out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole time I'm watching Maximus and the actor doing his work and really just studying him, and I feel like, I guess in my mind, I just made it kind of like a monologue or something because I didn't register anything she said.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just mostly like, I get to sit on the throne. I get to reenact my own Game of Thrones fantasy that I couldn't get from season 5 or whatever. And yeah, that's cool. How did you find? How did you find all the stuff with everyone kind of like stranded on Hawaii?
I really liked. I did like Gorgon's interactions with the surfers. Some of it was forced, like, oh, we're gonna help you fight that. It was just like, come on, guys. But I did like that of him almost drowning, and then the surfers saved him being able to interact. You also get to see that connection to Shield where humans know about, and they know that the water's flat, tainted or whatever. So it was nice to see that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because he kind of goes into the water. He doesn't realize that the water is so deep that he would probably drown, and then he gets rescued, and then afterwards they're like, your legs probably aren't good for swimming, and he's like, oh yeah, I kind of just realized that.
Yeah, and I thought that was funny. And that was one of the things that some other problems I had with the storytelling. It was just I just wish that they thrown in about things like how Medusa feels about her character, how people react to Black and his power. I thought that would be really effective throughout the episodes.
Well, I feel like we kind of get a little bit of that in the whole scenes with Black Bolt, because Black Bolt, later on in the episode, he kind of is on the run because, and this is another thing that kind of weirded me out, is like he goes in, he's kind of like looking for clothes because it's kind of obvious that he stands out from everybody, and also he's on the run from the police for causing a traffic accident. So he goes into the store and then he doesn't even bother paying. And it made me think, wow, is he that much of a jerk that he doesn't even understand like the simple basics of like commerce in like a society? Because it makes him like, yeah.
I didn't see it that way, but it was just kind of him like, I actually saw it as him kind of just being like, I don't have any way to pay you, so I'm just gonna play it off and just walk out. That's how I saw it. But yeah, so we did see that with how people interact with him. But that was just one of the things like with Corgan was I feel like they should have thrown in some things about how he's afraid of things like water, like how he would naturally just be afraid of that element. I think that would go a long way with just telling this little story.
Exactly. Well, I feel like with I think it's like 6 more episodes because the whole show's only 8 episodes overall. That we'll probably see more of him kind of like trying to get his way around the island, and then him having to confront that particular fear because he's not able to surf. I don't think his hooves would be able to work on areas that aren't dry land, and arguably, I feel like his character doesn't have that much to do because it ends with him making a declaration to Maximus that he's here, he's ready to bring whatever fight, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
they kind of leave you with like he's gonna sound like a squad of people, but he only sounds like one person. Right?
Yeah, because it's weird because he asks all the surfer guys, is like, you guys should go away. There's gonna be some trouble here. I don't want to get you see you guys hurt. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Why would we leave our beach? We like trouble. It's like, oh boy.
Well, that whole thing, that first part, like, why would we leave our beach? I feel like that's very true to islanders and just like how they feel about their territory.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was authentic. But then it was just like I said before, yeah. Why would they fight? I mean, I'm sure they're tough guys, but guns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't think they understand to the extent of like the kind of trouble that Gorgon is in, which is why I guess it doesn't seem like such a big deal. It's just weird that their response to him seems so like cliched and almost kind of like, I wouldn't say taken straight out of a TV show. It's super cheesy, essentially.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just they have no, I guess, part in this fight or whatever. It just makes no sense. So.
Exactly. We see Crystal gets kind of like captured by Maximus, and then she's kind of like stuck in her apartment. She has that confrontation with the lieutenant, and this is kind of like a new character who wasn't in the comics, and I think her name is Auron.
Aura or something.
Auron or whatever. How did you find her overall? Because first she has like a kind of like a shootout with Crystal, and then later at the end of the episode she has a fight with Medusa after she goes onto Earth.
I like her character for the most part. She's pretty one note, just like Terminator, henchman, or whatever. She just has that one objective in mind. I do like her. I thought she did a good job. And it looks like there's more to her than meets the eye. So
exactly. So I'll kind of go into spoilers. She has a fight with Medusa, and that leads to her getting shanked. Like straight up shanked by Medusa, because not only does she not have the hair, but I was really confused why she would be so focused on a guy peeling potatoes, kind of like when she goes on the bus. It's like, is she thinking about her hair? Is her hair the potato or something like that? And then it isn't until the end I realize, oh, she's thinking about the knife because she's looking for like a defensive weapon. So that's kind of like a big shock when she just goes up and just stabs Auron like again and again. I'm like, wow, that's hardcore. That's hardcore, man.
Yeah, it's not like that whole cliche of like I stab you once and you're gonna fall over and die. She actually prison shanked her.
Yeah.
Several times.
Exactly. Like, holy crap, yeah. This is not my This is like an episode of Oz, kinda like all over again. But they don't show it until the post credits, and I was kinda disappointed because I was like, oh, she's such a good character. How could they kill her off? But she comes back. She, you find out that her power is that she can heal from anything, including, I guess, getting stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, it really it helps me feel a lot better about Maximus just sending her alone.
Yeah.
Because the whole time I'm thinking, dude, you have the entire royal guard with you. Why don't you just send all of them, or a ton of them?
Exactly. Yeah. She's kind of able to stand up on her own, even though she got surprise shanked. But at least we know that she'll be there throughout the series, unless they find a way to like really kill her off, which would be disappointing.
Yeah, something interesting though is, do you think that's her ability? Is that she can just heal, or is it something else? Because she's doing some sort of like, I don't know, some sort of hand gesture or whatever over the wing.
Honestly, it reminded me of Avatar. She was like doing something, and then like with chi or whatever, and then like summon some sort of like spirit energy to kind of heal her knife wounds. But that would probably be it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about Medusa, we talked about Crystal, we talked about Gorgon. How did you find the Karnax stuff in the second episode?
I mean, it made no sense.
Yeah, it was really random. It was like you show him go through all this stuff, like he's stuck on like on top of a crater or whatever. He climbs down, he falls, he like gets a huge gash on his head. There's blood all over, and then it's just him wandering around throughout.
Yeah, and it's weird how they did it though. It was just, that's the problem with most of the episodes, well, both of the episodes, is that they were really just trying to get to this one point where they'd be able to start off the show on, I guess, where they had to just really try really hard to get them on Earth and everyone walked. And it was just weird how it cracked his head, because he's like, starts climbing down, and he starts smiling like, oh, I got there, and then all of a sudden he slips and cracks his head. So it's like, well,
kind of like my idea was that because he hurt his head, he wasn't able to properly use his powers to get around. That's why he's kind of like lost, and he realizes that at the end of the episode, which is why he's kind of like just lying there and crying or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really awkward actually. I'm like, poor guy. He doesn't do anything. He's just like lying there crying. It's like it gets a little bit darker by the end of the show. It's like, wow, he's probably just left alone to die. And that made me realize Lockjaw is a huge dick for separating everybody.
Why? That's their problem. Like, why are they all in like different islands or different sides of the island?
I know.
Why didn't he teleport all to the same place?
It's so random. And I had a theory. Have you ever read One Piece?
I've never read it. I watched a little.
Okay, so this is kind of like a light spoiler, but there's a moment where the crew of the One Piece, like the pirate crew, they get stranded because of one character pushing them into different directions, and it isn't until they realize where they are, where they kind of realize they've been sent to an area where they have to train with the locals around them to get stronger. And I feel like maybe they're trying to go for the same thing with Lockjaw doing the same thing to the Inhumans, but at the same time, like, it absolutely makes no sense why Lockjaw is able to transport everyone with pinpoint accuracy to different places, but he isn't able to group them all together in the first place.
Okay. I would just prefer that they had all been teleported at once, but something interfered with it, and they all got some. I mean...
Yeah, if there was like a line of dialogue that said that, I would have been okay with that too. Exactly.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, he's just a dick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we'll probably finish off by talking about what happens to Black Bolt, because this was kind of like a funny moment in the trailers. Did you kind of see it? He kind of gets hit with a baton, and then he just kind of like makes a shock, and it causes sound, which creates a shockwave that kind of flips over a car. How did you find that part? And yeah,
I really liked it. I was a little worried about it in watching the trailers, because if you know anything about Black Bolt, is that he has trained himself to never make a sound. I mean, like, even as he sleeps, even when he is hurt. You know?
Exactly. But the way that they showed it in the trailer, it's like he's hit in the back with a baton, and that causes him to slightly like yell out like that. But it isn't until you actually watch the episode that you see that he got tasered, and that's why it wasn't something that he was used to.
Yeah, I liked it that they went with the taser, and like, you know, even though the batons can't do anything to him, taser control.
Because it's something that I don't think Adeline would have tasers, so it would be a complete shock, and that's why he would have like not been able to control being able to make a sound and thus using his power.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I wanted to see the car look down on the city block. Just his character in general. We haven't talked about him at all.
Oh yeah, no.
Just his character is, I think, the very best part of the show.
I think so too. I feel like you can just study his face and the way he uses sign language to communicate that he is definitely he's gonna be a deeper character in the show.
Yeah, and have you seen Hell on Wheels?
You know what? The Hell on Wheels is filmed actually really close by where I live, and I've never watched an episode.
No way.
No, yeah,
Okay.
I actually live in that area. Yeah.
All right, so that's where Anson Mount is actually from.
Mm-hmm.
That's his biggest role, I guess. He's the main character on Hell on Wheels, and I recommend watching. It's good.
I'll have
Yeah,
to.
like you said,
I have friends who are signing up to be extras on that show.
Is it still going? I thought it ended.
No, it ended recently.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like you said, he's very expressive, and that's exactly what you need with Black Bolt, because you need to be able to have him be able to express everything he say with a look. And for most of the show, like you can tell what he and how he feels at any given moment. Except for when he doesn't want you to know.
Mm-hmm, yeah, like there's kind of like a scene early on the first episode where people question his ability to judge people because he seems to be too complacent with dealing with Maximus, and you just kind of like see that look in his eyes, and it's like almost as if he kind of knows and he kind of wants to care, but he doesn't want to say anything yet.
Yeah. So yeah, I think just the whole with him communicating and his development as the character, I think was just very well done. I liked how he interacted with the police, just being very casual and very polite with everything.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and then that kind of leads into one of my favorite parts of like the whole release is when Medusa's trying to contact him, and she wants a sign to know that he's okay, and of course he can't speak or be able to respond to it, so he actually puts his little transponder watch thing to his heart, and you can hear the heartbeat, and I thought that was actually really cool.
Yeah, like it's one of those moments where it's like, oh man, this is deep, but it's like this is also really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite moments of the whole thing, because it's kind of like it speaks to like the kind of emotional bond they have together, because she's able just to hear him and know that he's okay.
Yeah, and it really gets me excited for what's to come. Just to see how they can improvise ways for him to communicate.
Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much what we plan to talk about for Inhumans. How much time do you have before you have to head out?
I'm good. For at least another hour.
For at least another hour. Did you want to quickly talk about Riverdale season 1? Because you had mentioned you had seen it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I finished it yesterday.
Oh, you finished it yesterday. Wow. So everything is kind of like fresh in your head. Without going into any like super in-depth spoilers, how did you find the show overall?
Again, it was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Berlanti at the moment. I just feel like all of his stuff is very much the same. It follows the same patterns, so I wasn't too excited about it. But it ended up being a lot better than I thought it would be. I appreciate the dark feel that it has. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue to it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with one of the other posters on our Discord chat saying that it was like a good show up until about the halfway point where it started to really go downhill. I felt like Riverdale, they had all its best moments in the first like 5 or 6 episodes, and then afterwards things had to kind of roll down or try to resolve everything, and it felt really rushed, really cheesy, and honestly I was really kind of let down by the overall mystery because it wasn't that much of a big shock as to what had happened overall.
Yeah, it wasn't really a big shock who ended up doing it. But I actually do feel like the second half was a little bit better. The first half I felt was just all over the place. Mm-hmm. Especially I think it's episode 2 or 3. Without going into spoilers, it's the Barb episode from Stranger Things, whatever her name is.
Oh, yeah, that particular episode. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the one where Betty and Veronica kind of work together to try to like stop this really, really douchey guy from preying on women and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's the whole, I guess, allusions to rape and that kind of thing. It was just the weirdest and just awful episode I've ever seen. Like,
awful episode.
My least favorite episodes I've watched ever.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say it was that bad for me. I actually felt there were some that were worse later on in Riverdale itself. I'm trying to think of the one in particular. I feel like it was that talent show episode because it was just pretty much focusing on Archie trying to like make a song for a talent show, and then he's constantly like trying to ask for help, and that was so boring. I think it was actually the episode right. No, it wasn't the episode right afterward because
Well, that was
it was later on.
That was the episode with Josie and her dad.
Yeah, and
It was
her
like
dad
all
and
the
stuff.
parents
It's
are
like
just
it had nothing.
so-
It had nothing to do with the actual like mystery, and just felt like a lot of filler.
I can get that. I don't know. It's well, the problem I had with that episode was that girl is talking about how she's had to fight and claw her way to society or whatever, and it's like, please, what have you ever had it that? Your mother's the mayor, your dad is. You guys have money. It's not like you live in the ghetto.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it feels kind of like it doesn't really feel it feels facetious, or it feels like she's just kind of like complaining, or she's from a position of privilege where you would look at her and say, okay, maybe that's the impression that you're getting, but then if you look at like her personal background, it doesn't seem to be that way because she seems to get a lot of big gigs and big deals and big jobs because of her parents' position and because her mom's the mayor.
Seriously, I mean, her stupid band, Josie and the Pussycats, I don't know why they can use that name, but whatever. They play every single gig. Like, if there's a single event in that town.
They have a monopoly on live music. That's kind of like my impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys that's fighting call your way to any and like they try to, it's still without spoilers, they try to make you feel because their parents are terrible people, which isn't a spoiler because every adult on the show besides
Every show is terrible except for one, and then my theory on that entire point of the show was that he was the real killer, and it turned out not to be the case, and I was kind of disappointed. But I don't want to go too far into that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like every parent is so, like comically evil. I don't feel bad for her because it's just so far fetched.
But yeah, did you ever read any of the Archie comics when you were younger, or still do? I don't know. Not a big Archie guy. Did you ever have any like fondness for Jughead or Betty?
On the show?
Yeah, like on the show in general. Like, how did you like their characters? Because this is a very light spoiler, but they kind of have a really close relationship. If you get my drift.
Yeah. I actually like both of their characters, although I don't think they try to develop some aspects of Betty's character. They never actually flesh it out or delve into it after that one terrible episode. But yeah, Jughead is actually my favorite character. Him and F, which is weird because yes, I didn't realize it was him, but it's either Zach or Eli.
He's Zach or Cody. Yeah, one of those two from like the old Disney show, right?
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at all.
Yeah.
I really liked his character. I liked what happens at the end with it. I liked how his character ended. I liked his relationship with his dad, who is Steve Ulrich, the actor. If you've ever seen that show, Jericho.
Oh no, I did not. I've always wanted to watch Jericho because I heard it was really good. But yeah, I know Skeet Ulrich was like in a bunch of old like horror movies back in the day.
Yeah, I'm the only thing I've seen him Jericho. But I really like him as an actor, and I don't know the whole aspect of their family I thought was more interesting.
Exactly. Were there any other characters that you liked? Did you like Veronica or?
I did like Veronica. I did, like I said, I do like that. Veronica was, I think, a really good character. She did some weird choices. I guess she was one of the better.
Did you end up liking Archie, despite all his like constant whinings about making it big as an artist and having absolutely nothing to do with like the main mystery and barely having any involvement until kind of like there's that one episode where he kind of joined Cheryl and like the it wasn't the funeral. It was like a maple syrup tradition or ceremony or something like that. That one that was really weird too.
I actually really like that. Seeing more into Cheryl's life, like how crazy the family is.
Exactly,
So I
yeah.
actually did like that. Archie, yeah, I don't care about the whole music. That's something that CW and other shows like to do is this kid that really loves music, but he's like a football player, just wants to make it big. And it's like, I really don't care. Even as someone who majored in for I did care a lot. Did not care a lot. And I think he suffers from the Shia kind of syndrome in the Transformers movies, where every girl is just in love with him for no reason.
For no reason, yeah, kind of.
It's like really bizarre. He just moves with girls legally. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to feel that, but he was. I don't know. I think he's best. He's with his group of people. They don't focus on all that crap. I think they're
Yeah, he's not really like a character that needs to be on the forefront because his plot lines don't really intersect that well with the whole mystery thing. But I feel like, at the very least, he'll be a more important character coming into the second season. Are you interested in watching the second season when that comes out?
Yeah. That last episode, with again, where Jughead ended up is unexpected.
Yeah, because we see all the main characters kind of get into their own like situations, leading on outside of the overall mystery, because they all have their own little plot lines to go through, and we kind of got to see hints of it in the last episode.
Yeah, so last episode was great, except for it was just weird how everyone at the same time. That's when everything starts to happen. It's setting up the next season for that, but like all the characters down each other. But yeah, so I like where Jughead ended up. I like the ending with Cheryl and seeing what she's up to. Betty, I hope they explore more of her darker side of her character season. That should be cool. I couldn't care less about Veronica's dad.
Oh, really? I'm kind of excited for Veronica's dad, because there's that whole aspect of him trying to buy into his way into Riverdale, kind of.
I mean, it's going to be interesting seeing him. I know he's going to be that character who just screws everything up, all the things that want to happen. He's just going to be the guy who puts on for everything. So I guess that's why I'm not excited for him to be there.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he's like, I guess,
Yeah.
because he's only mentioned, or he's only constantly talked about, but we don't hear or actually see him at all in the first season.
Yeah, and that was a little weird too. Was they talk about her dad, but Veronica shows up and everyone doesn't like her already. But they never really explain why nobody likes her or why they think her dad's such a girl. Except for with Barb's dad. They have that episode.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about it maybe in a future episode. But I think I'm gonna call it a night for now. Next week, did you want to do an episode again?
Yeah.
Because my idea was that we would do the Civil War, the big Civil War podcast next week, and then after that, we'll do the Wonder Woman recap for the Blu-ray release.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about the Civil War one. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely do that. I gotta let Hank know, and he seems to be away from the chat at the moment, but I'll let him know. We'll schedule something out. So this is kind of like my idea for the next couple of months, is that after Wonder Woman, we'll kind of do a Justice League universe recap and kind of talk about each of the films leading into Justice League in November.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then if anything else pops up or if anything other crazy stuff happens, we'll definitely have a moment to give that an episode or something.
Yeah. Question: do you know when Inhumans is when? I think it's coming to TV on the 29th.
On the 29th, yeah.
So I have a chance to see what that's.
Well, we can definitely talk more about Inhumans after either as the season continues, because I think it's only 8 or 10 episodes, and assuming they do one every week, we'll probably finish it by November, so sometime before Justice League. Okay, well, sounds good then. So that has been episode 8 of the CBM Voice Chat podcast. My name is Neely, and you've been listening to both myself and AngryBlueManta, and we wish you guys a good evening, and take care, guys. Bye.